Another absolutely epic Frank Lloyd Wright house is for sale, this time in Illinois. A townhouse in New York was just torn down to make room for a $75 million mansion, but the place that they tore down was once owned by one of the most famous musicians of all time. I wonder how many people kept up with that one. And Barb from Shark Tank just shared a pretty interesting story about how she made her first $1 million in real estate. This series has been pretty popular lately, so let's do it again. In today's episode, let's dive into the top real estate headlines from this past week. A penthouse in Miami that's not even built yet is on track to be Miami's most expensive home. It just went under contract for $120 million. Yes, $120 million for a condo in Miami. This unit is in the development called Shore Club Private Collection. It's located at 1901 Collins Avenue, which looks like this right now on Google Street View, but is proposed to look more like this once the developer gets done with it. The penthouse unit that just went under contract will have 10,500 square feet of living space with another 7,500 square feet of outdoor space. The New York Post has got some renderings of what the place is gonna look like. I am assuming it's this one here on the top, or maybe it's several stories, not sure. The kitchen's awesome. It does seem a little bit small for the price point, but it's not a house, this is a condo, so I guess it makes sense. This is the view you're gonna get from the master bathroom. You got the soaking tub right up there on the window. There's just a few more renderings on the Shore Club website. This one shows us what the private residential entrance looks like. Once you walk through those doors, this is what the private residential lobby looks like. This is another one of those terraces, huge wall of multi-slide doors, so you got that indoor-outdoor vibe. They've got a beach house. I'm guessing like if you live in one of the condos, maybe you can rent this out for a night or something. The building is gonna have its own private library, and then the grounds are outfitted like this, so lots of paths to just walk around, lots of places to just sit and think and just be rich and love your life, I guess. Now I was dying to figure out who was the buyer of this place. We don't know anything about the buyer yet, but at that $120 million price tag, it's basically guaranteed to be a billionaire. Okay, now this might be my favorite story of the day. So Barbara from Shark Tank just shared with Business Insider how she once made $1.2 million selling off a bunch of dumpy apartments by treating these apartments like they were puppies for sale. Apparently back in the 90s, Barb was tasked with selling these apartments in New York. This was right around when rates were 18%, so she pretty much had to find somebody who was willing to pay cash. Her solution to offload them was to model off of her grandpa's neighbor in New Jersey who sold litters of Jack Russell puppies, and anytime he had a new litter to sell, he had a line of people down the street who wanted one of these dogs. And side note, we think we have it bad right now with interest rates at like 7 or 8%. I was born in '86, so I never really lived through this time as an adult anyway. I cannot imagine mortgage interest rates being at 18%. That's rough. Anyways, Barbara had to sell all these apartments. She didn't know exactly what to do, but her strategy was to take these 88 units and price them all exactly the same. Each one of them was priced at $59,900. Then what she did is she had a bunch of salespeople bring their two best customers out to a bus ride that she called Deals on Wheels. Then she carted these buyers to the Upper East Side to look at the units. When the buyers and agents arrived to tour these places, there were already a bunch of sales contracts that were laid out. She actually had some dummy contracts and some unsigned contracts, so she kind of made it look like there was more sold than there even actually was. Which, that whole thing about putting dummy contracts out, not sure how I feel about that. I kind of feel like nowadays that would be illegal, but this was New York and it was the 90s, so I don't know. Legal or not, her tactics worked. She sold the entire lot of units in less than 3 hours, and Barb made over $1.2 million on the deal in total. Epic story. The lesson here is that she pretty much just created scarcity. She made it look like there was way more demand for these units than there were units available, and the strategy paid off. One of LA's most exclusive developments is finally wrapping up. These places are great. They're called the houses at 8899 Beverly, and prices here start at $6 million. The houses are right next to the 8899 Beverly building in West Hollywood. There's a total of 8 detached 3 to 4 bedroom single family residences. This is what the main condo complex looks like from the street. You don't see any houses right around it though. It's just like a bunch of regular businesses and stuff. But to find the houses, we need to zoom up this way really quick. Hopefully this isn't making you guys too nauseous or anything. We need to get all the way up here to whatever street this is, and then cut down this street and go up to the stop sign, and then we need to make a right and then go over this way just a hair, and boom, you'll see the houses start. So they're actually behind the condo complex, but if we look at them, at least the construction shots, which I think they must be a little bit farther along now if these places are actually for sale, they're very cool. They're super modern looking, and they probably have access to all those same amenities that you get if you live at the 8899 condo building. So that's really nice. And yeah, I don't know how the developer acquired all this land, but look at all these things. If you look on Zillow, so these 5 units that are available right here are units that are in the condo tower. So these are all really nice. They're priced anywhere from $5 million up to what, $15 million? If we close out of this and then look back here, so only 1 of the 8 houses is currently listed for sale. They're asking $6.75 million for this one, and it is at 8860 Rosewood. So this particular unit has 4 bedrooms, 5 baths, 3,500 square feet. So it seems like it's a bit larger than the condos. And down here in the description says this one's called the Bronze House. It was just barely completed. And yeah, it looks like we were right. So you get 24-hour concierge, 24-hour guest valet. You get all the amenities of the condo tower if you buy one of these units. Let's look at some of the photos real quick. So this is what it looks like from the street. It's kind of funny. These buildings almost blend together, but here's the house. This must be what you see when you walk through the front door. They went with no baseboards. Very tough to pull off, but very nice look. Lots of walls of glass like this throughout the house. I'm kind of confused because from this angle, the kitchen island looks like this, but then from this angle, the kitchen island looks like this. Seems like 2 different kitchens, probably is. At least a couple of the bedrooms come with their own fireplace. If we look at the houses tab on this property's website, so check this out. So you guys can see this limited collection of houses. They actually each do have their own theme. So there's the concrete house, the bronze house, which is what we just looked at, the wood house, the stone house, the glass house, the brick house, the garden house, the steel house. So there's 8 different themes, I guess. And as you scroll through here, you'll see each one of them is a little bit different looking from the street, and each one of them is a little different size, like whether it's square footage or bedroom count or whatever. All the finished packages feel like they're a little different from one house to the next as well, which is kind of nice. If you're spending $6 million on a house, you don't want it to look exactly like your neighbor's house. You kind of want it to be special. I don't know. I've always dreamt of building something like this myself someday, where I build like 5 or 6 or 8 houses at a time. I'm definitely not ready for that at this point in my development career, but maybe someday. Sticking to the Beverly Hills theme here for a second, and this one happened like 3 or 4 weeks ago, but I don't think we ever talked about it. The $2 billion project at 1 Beverly Hills has just broke ground. Some of you guys might remember I did do a video about this project a few months ago when it seemed like it was just kind of stuck in limbo, but it is officially back on. They had one of those big groundbreaking ceremonies where a bunch of people stick golden shovels into the ground for a picture. A bit of a weird tradition, also a cool tradition, no disrespect, but it's always kind of funny seeing a bunch of people in suits and hard hats sticking these shovels in the ground. Anyways, 1 Beverly Hills is going to be an 18-acre compound of condos and hotel rooms that connect the Beverly Hilton and the Waldorf Astoria. Since we talked about this one in the past, we can just breeze through some renderings real quick for anybody who missed that last video. So this shows like the public walking paths, super lush. There's so many trees that they're bringing into the site. You can see the Beverly Hilton there in the back. Here's the valet area. Not sure exactly why they used all these classic cars in the renderings, but I kind of love it. This is what the place is going to look like from across the street. And then just another angle of what you're going to see once you're in there. I think this place is going to be pretty cool. This next story is pretty wild. I mean, I probably could have made an entire video just on this topic alone. So the largest single family landlord in the country was just ordered to cough up $3.7 million in a rent gouging case. The company is called Invitation Homes. They have like 80 or 90,000 homes across the United States, but around 5,000 of those houses are in the Bay Area, which is where this case started. See, like, check it out. So this is the Invitation Homes website. It shows like what all their inventory looks like just in the Bay Area alone. I know California is expensive, but just like look at the prices on some of these things. Like $3,600 for this little house, $2,400 for that tiny little house. That looks almost like a shed. 947 square feet. This thing, $2,600 a month, 1,100 square feet. To keep these prices from getting too out of control, there's something called the Tenant Protection Act. Apparently, this company tried to raise rents from 2019 to 2022 on 1,900 of their homes around California beyond these approved thresholds. These tenant protections are put in place for a reason, especially in places like California, where the cost of living is already so high. And even as a real estate investor myself, like, I get these tenant protections and I really am on board with them. I think that it only makes sense to put a cap to how much a landlord can raise your rent. I mean, if you're a family who's barely scraping by, living paycheck to paycheck, paying $2,000 per month, and then you just get a notice that your rent's going up to $3,000 a month, that's not cool. Companies like Invitation Homes have really taken off in the last 10 years. They initially actually got started out here in Phoenix, where I live, before expanding into other markets. And check it out, this whole business model of buying houses, renting them out, and just collecting the cash flow is big money. This is their press release for their third quarter earnings of last year. These guys increased revenue, bringing in over $600 million in total year-over-year revenue. Their operating and maintenance costs did go up, but their net income was still up 66% to $132 million. And it looks like even though they're raising people's rent, the rent's still getting paid. Rent collections were about 99% of the company's historical average collection rate. There's a guy in New York who is in the process of building a basically $75 million mansion by combining two townhouses into one, but I think he might get a little heat for this. The guy's name is Robert Callender. He's a developer who paid $18 million total for these buildings a couple of years ago. At this point, he's already well on his way with demolition. Okay, so I pulled the Google Street View. These are images from July of 2022, so this is before any of the more recent activity. The red brick building on the left and the white building are the two that he picked up. So he already paid $18 million just for these two buildings alone before he even started his work. But check this out. If I flip this over to just the aerial view on Google at 105 Bank Street and we zoom in, look at what this place used to be. See that? John Lennon's first New York home. This is legit. This is literally the building that John Lennon first lived in New York. He lived here with Yoko Ono. The place even has a couple of reviews. This guy DT did say that it's kind of an unspectacular building until you realize that this is where John Lennon lived. This guy Asif says that it is a beautiful street in the West Village, but the building is now being gutted and rebuilt, although there was a stop work notice on the door. This is from a year ago, so who knows what that was about. And yeah, this place has a spot on a bunch of historic websites. Like this one here tells a little bit more about the history of when exactly he lived here. And this was actually after he broke up with the Beatles and there was a bunch of controversy. So him and Yoko, I guess, actually moved into this place to hide for a little while. I don't know. I'm a Beatles fan. I've always loved John Lennon's music, so maybe I'm being a little selfish, but because of that, I'm definitely a bit sad to see this place torn down. Here's a picture of what it looks like now. So as you can see, a bunch of demo has definitely already happened. Here we've got some workers who are putting up some scaffolding between the buildings. This shot's really interesting. So this shows a worker who's actually installing underpins below the neighbor's foundation so Callender can build a big basement for his new home. This is going to be a very intense and almost like a surgical build. Part of the permitting process that he went through to get approval to do this build did say that the facades for both of these buildings will need to stay. So I guess that means that if you're just some random person walking by these buildings, then it'll still kind of look like you're looking at John Lennon's old house, right? Another Frank Lloyd Wright home has hit the market, and if you've been following me long enough, you know that basically every time this happens, we have to look at the house. Frank Lloyd Wright is an absolute legend. This particular house is actually pretty rare. They want $900,000. Now, if you wanted to buy this place, you're officially out of luck because it's only been on the market like a couple of days and is already showing under contract, but let's check it out. So we got 3 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, only 1,500 square feet, which I think actually includes an addition that was done at some point. I mean, this place was built way back in 1916. They didn't build houses all that big back then. Down here in the price history, it tells us the last time this place sold was in 2021 for $635. So they're gonna make a couple $100,000 on this flip in just a few years. And like we're about to see, like a lot of Frank Lloyd Wright houses, we have a floor plan that has a stunning landscape that accentuates the house itself. There's a lot of woodwork throughout, a bunch of built-in bookcases, panoramic views, skylights. Let's just hop into these photos. Okay, so cover shot, first thing that stands out, this garage was obviously added on at some point, but whatever, that's fine. You need somewhere to park your car. I love all these windows on the front side of the house. As you walk up to the front door, one thing that Frank Lloyd Wright really liked to do is, I think he called it like a compression theory or something like that, where basically when you walk up to the front door, the ceiling height is super low, and then when you open the front door, it generally opens into a room that's got higher ceilings. It's kind of like, I don't know, it creates a good feel when you're entering a house. We'll just ignore the popcorn ceiling. We got a fireplace, tons of natural light. No disrespect to the current owner, but I don't think they have the right furniture in here. If they had the right furniture to just like accentuate this house, it would have taken it to another level for sure. Here's the dining room. The kitchen cabinets and counters were obviously updated at some point, but you can see they left a lot of the original detail in here. We got a couple of tiny bedrooms. That's to be expected. Again, this house is 100 years old. And then I'm gonna guess this is down in the basement. Not a lot of room down here, but I like basements. I grew up in Pittsburgh, a lot of basements in Pittsburgh. I'm not gonna lie, guys, I know I really hyped this one up, but this is not my favorite Frank Lloyd Wright house. Still lots of respect, okay? But it's not my favorite. That's a wrap for today's episode. If you enjoyed the video, remember to hit the like button down below or leave a comment before you go. That really helps the channel out a lot. And I know I say it every time, but don't forget to click subscribe as well if you're into real estate videos like this. I'm putting new videos out every week. I'll see you next time.